This is part 2 of the episode series that I'm doing with Hazbin Hotel. I forgot to add something at the beginning of my last video. If you guys want to see every single episode before it even comes out, become a channel member today, and you'll have access to all of these videos that I upload that you guys want to see early, and not wait for the upload. Thank you all, hope you'll enjoy.
Izuku Midoriya wasn't average. He was worthless, a complete Deku according to society. In a world where 80% of the population had superpowers, the 20% without quickly became the discriminated minority. This was a harsh fact that Izuku had learnt from a young age after being diagnosed as quirkless. Since that day his life had taken a steep dive. He lost his friends, he was constantly bullied, his father left, and now his own mother, the woman he looked up to the most, had died, leaving him alone in the world. Izuku, Charlie, Vagi, and Tokoyami could only scream as they were flung through a vortex of red and black, while shadows clawed at the corner of their vision. Their luggage gripped tightly in their hands, while Dark Shadow gave a very feminine scream of exhilaration, clutching to Tokoyami's shoulders with an unhinged gleam in its eyes. With a sudden thump, they found themselves slamming into a large bed with messy sheets. A bronze puzzle box twisted into a small monolith sat discarded on the middle, the door wide open and a chair tipped haphazardly in the way. "This isn't my house," Tokoyami groaned as he shook his head as if to lessen the dizziness he was experiencing. "Then where are we?" Charlie asked as she looked around before noticing the puzzle box. "Oh no. Fuck." Vagi agreed as she summoned her usual spear. What is that?" Izuku asked as he went to pick up the puzzle box only to receive a small shock. "Oh, a lament configuration," Tokoyami stated in shock, his eyes wide. "This place is not safe." As if to cement his statement, a scream was heard from downstairs. Without thinking, Izuku charged out the room, ignoring both Vagi and Charlie's words of caution, as the door locked behind him and Tokoyami continued to eye the corners of the room with distrust, his frown deepening as something moved in the shadows. Coming down the stairs, Izuku almost puked at the sight before him. 2 dead people in a pool of growing blood as a being from one of the hells dragged a busty black-haired girl closer to him, using a chain wrapped around her throat. She struggled, her hands gripping and pulling the chain, even as they bled, while her feet slowly slid forwards, unable to gain a foothold on the bloody carpet. "Let her go," Izuku shouted as he jumped at the young woman and tried to help her pull against the chain. "You have no business here, young prince." The being spat in anger. "She has opened the gateway, and I shall claim my price." "The cane you will," Izuku shouted as he grabbed at the chain and began to pull. The lynx began to groan in protest as a sickly emerald fire included his entire skull, revealing the bone underneath as a pair of curved horns grew atop his skull. "A mere flame. The child is but a flame user." The being gave a loud, cruel laugh as he still casually dragged the chain closer. How unimpressive. "Yeah, fuck you too," Izuku snarled, his voice raspy as the chain began to glow first orange, then white before with a final groan and shriek it snapped, making the 2 stumble slightly while the being remained unaffected. "Get your cane-damned ass back to whatever area of hell you came from now." The being frowned slightly, dipping his nail-covered head. "Very well, I cannot go against the wishes of Her Highness's family, but know this, I will return." They spat before fading into the shadows of the room. "Are you okay?" Izuku asked the girl, who sunk to her knees, shaking fearfully. A nasty red cut circled her throat and jagged cuts marred her hands. Crouching down in the blood, Izuku put his skeletal hands on the girl's shoulders in concern as she stared ahead blankly. "Izuku!" Charlie called as she rushed down the stairs, a sparking puzzle in her hands with Tokoyami and Vaggie fighting off a weird beast that clung upside down from the walls using its legs. She needs to close the portal. "Miss, can you close it for us?" Izuku asked as he gently shook her shoulders. "Miss, please." "WY?" she whispered, her voice shaking slightly. "Why didn't you kill me?" "I'm not here to hurt you. We got here by accident," Izuku stated as Charlie quickly set the box in front of the girl before conjuring her apple-themed trident and rushing back to help Vaggie and Takoyami. "Can you tell me your name?" "Any time now, Dark Prince," Tokoyami shouted as he was sent flying by the beast. "Momo," the girl whispered, shaking in fear at the sight of the demon attacking the group. What are they?" "Cenobites," Izuku stated shortly, and with no lack of hate for them. "Horrible border tribes of hell. Complete the puzzle, and they'll be sent back to hell." "Wait, what about us?" Vaggie asked with a grunt as she appeared the beast in the eye, making it shriek in pain and anger. "We should be fine." Charlie yelped as she ducked under a swipe of the beast's claws before swinging her trident and removing several of the beast's fingers, making it down in agony. "Please," Izuku asked Momo as he gestured to the box. With a small nod, she got to work. Each successful move yielded one less layer to the song which hung in the air, its innocent tune turned sinister by the events it had heralded. "How can it send us back, child? We are already here, and now so are you." A mocking and broken voice came from the corner of the room, a being with no lips and barbed wire fusing the nose and eyes wide open snarled. Their form was impossible to distinguish as either male or female, and clad in a suit of black leather, 6 bloody poles pierces the chest at random intervals with a butcher's hook lodged into the ribs, holding them apart. "Touch her, and I'll rip you to shreds." Izuku growled as the fire surrounding him grew in intensity. Yet another piece fell into place as Momo quickened her pace, not wanting the events to last any longer. "The Order of Gash." Tokoyami gasped in shock as he tried to pull himself from the crater in the wall. The being turned its attention to the bird-headed teen, tilting its head in curiosity before returning its game to Izuku. "We have such pleasures to share if but the girl is given to us, young one." "Yeah, right, I'm not like you," Izuku spat before hurling a fireball at the demon, who didn't flinch as the green fire quickly ate away at the leather and the left side of its torso. The fire soon died down, leaving charred bones and burnt flesh covered in melted leather like cheese on a burger that had been cooked for too long. "You are a Cenobite, whether you admit to it or not. The flesh does not lie." The being snarled as another part of the tune disappeared from the melody of the music box. "No, I'm not a monster." Izuku snarled as several ropes of barbed wire shot from the darkness and wrapped around him. They soon grew red with heat before melting off of him into puddles of iron on the floor. "I am a hero." "Foolish." The Cenobite snapped as more wire flew at Izuku, all of it melting away as the teenage demon grew closer. "A hero never gives up," Izuku shouted as he slugged the Cenobite in the jaw, melting half its head and sending it flying across the room and into the TV, smashing the screen. "I will become a hero people can look up to. I will be like All Might and show people they don't need to fear, for I am here," he shouted with his raspy voice, his fire glowing intense enough the Momo had to shield her eyes as the cube's pieces finally slid back into position, the Cenobite snarling as it pulled itself from the TV and gave a scream of utter rage which echoed from several locations around the room. Whether it was its own scream or the scream of others was impossible to tell. The cube sparked violently and gave off an intense white light as the Cenobites besides Izuku faded from this reality. A dagger of bone and metal thrown from a darkened corner of the room vanished mere inches from Tokoyami's face, making the teen give a sigh of relief. "They're gone," Momo asked hopefully, her hand shaking as she dropped the music box like it was a ticking bomb, and given the events that just transpired, a mere bomb was a cruel understatement. "We should be good." Izuku panted and rasped as the fire began to fade away, leaving him with his usual pale complexion and a few flecks of fire in his hair. "Are you okay?" "It can't be," Momo gasped in shock, her eyes going wide. "I saw you die. You're Izuku Midoriya, the boy who jumped." "We came as soon as we could," a man called as he booted down the front door, almost retching at the stench and sight of so much blood. They were wearing a pair of long black pants and shirt with a gray scarf and yellow vent-like goggles over their eyes. "Oh my cane, it's Eraserhead," Izuku cried out excitedly, while Vaggy face palmed and Charlie gave a nervous laugh at Izuku's enthusiasm. Tokoyami could only shake his head as he finally pulled himself from the wall. Dust covered his feathers and dark shadow clung to his side in a protective manner. Aizawa was not having a good night. He had been dealing with the brats all day and ended up expelling the entire class, which got Nezu on his case. Then he ran into Miss Joke right after his patrol started, and she followed him for a few blocks before he lost her in an alleyway, only for her to find him again half an hour ago. Now he was having to deal with a massacre scene. The stench was awful. The smell of molten metal mingled with the stench of blood and feces filled the air like a thick fog blanketing the room. "Oh damn, not even I can joke about this." The green-haired clown gagged at the stench as she repositioned her bandana from over her hair to covering her nose and mouth, given that she didn't carry any air filters on her. Note to self, invest in a gas mask. May help in the future. "What the actual fuck happened here?" Aizawa growled, his eyes flashing red as he glared at the excitable green-haired boy who had called him out by name. "You don't want to know. Could someone call a doctor? I think Tokoyami and Momo here need to be looked at," Vaggy stated as she gave a flat glare at Aizawa, one he was begrudgingly impressed with. "So I'm Charlie. Nice to meet you." Charlie smiled as she stuck out her hand at Aizawa. He merely glared at her before Miss Joke took her hand and shook it vigorously. "I'm the pro hero Miss Joke. Nice to meet you. Could you tell us what happened here?" the clown heroine asked with a large grin hidden behind the bandana. "Your usual portal to hell opening and shit hitting the cane damn fan. Literally," Charlie replied casually as she pointed upwards to a ceiling fan that was literally covered in feces and blood and a small amount of intestine. "Me and my friends were diverted here instead of our actual destination, and we saved Momo here from becoming another victim to the Cenobites." "Yeah, whatever you be been smoking, stop," Aizawa deadpanned. "Hey, Charlie isn't on anything," Izuku called back with his arms folded. "Hell doesn't exist," Aizawa deadpanned. "Besides, you all don't look like demons." Miss Joke waved it off cheerfully. "She is the Dark Princess of Hell, daughter of Lucifer himself," Tokoyami stated. Dark Shadow nodded in agreement. "Wait, were we supposed to keep it all a secret or no? Your uncle wasn't clear on that," Vaggy asked Charlie, who looked shocked that she hadn't considered that a possibility, let alone taking into account how religious individuals would react. Izuku's eyes went wide as he started to mutter up a storm before Vaggy covered his mouth, making him stop. "Oh man, Uncle Michael will be so disappointed," Charlie worried as she began to pace back and forth, running her hands through her hair, nervously making it a mess. "Sorry, but what they said is true." Momo shuddered as she made a lead-lined briefcase with her quirk and slammed it shut on the puzzle box. "The trap in this box opens a gateway to hell. I opened it by accident, and now my family is dead." Hey, it's okay. You had no way of knowing, Izuku told her firmly as he knelt down next to her, grimacing slightly at the fact his pants would now be covered in blood. I'm sure you'll see them again someday. Yeah, in hell, Vaggie put bluntly. Opening the box is a one-way ticket there after all, and well, getting to heaven is next to impossible. Stairway to heaven and highway to hell and all that crap. Wait, seriously? Huh. Miss Joke muttered as she pulled out her phone and sallied a number. Hey, it's Emmy. Could you have a cleanup crew, paramedics, and police to that big-ass mansion in the HI prefecture, the one with the big white wall around it? It's a mess. 1 survivor and 4 who got caught up in it all by accident. No, they're alive too. I only said that because they arrived after most of the deaths occurred. No, I'm not joking. Why you? I am not an old crow. With a snooty huff, Miss Joke hit the end call button and stuck her nose in the air. We sure Angle Dust doesn't have any relatives? Izuku asked Charlie. Positive. Only child of an only child and the only survivor of a robbery gone wrong. Charlie replied simply. All right, everyone out front. Aizawa ordered as his scarf blew in an unfelt wind. With a resigned sigh, Vaggie and Charlie followed out Izuku, who was helping Momo along, while Miss Joke helped Dark Shadow stop Tokoyami from falling over. The front of the mansion was no better than inside. Either side of the door 2 guards were sprawled out across the ground, wrapped in barbed wire and mutilated. One looked to be a base human, asides a pair of now shredded bee wings protruding from her shoulders, while the other looked like a humanoid warthog. Oh God. Momo gagged as she struggled to hold her stomach down. They had family. Cane-damned sadists. Izuku spat as he led Momo away from the bodies, purposefully moving to block her line of sight to the 3rd body barely sticking out of the bushes. And though Voorhees was a messy killer. Charlie frowned in distaste. They could have at least made the kills painless or quick. This was neither. Tokoyami nodded in agreement with a frown. His arms crossed over his chest as Dark Shadow's form grew from wisp to humanoid in the darkness. Such mad revelry and partaking of sadistic torment is not fit for such a world. Enough with the hell skit already. Aizawa grunted as a distant sound of police sirens could be heard growing closer. There is no such place. Oh, I wouldn't be too sure about that. A female voice tittered nervously, making Aizawa jump and spin around, coming face to face with a woman about 20 years of age. Her hair was short and dark brown. A silver halo floated above her head as she wrote down numerous notes on a notebook clutched firmly in her hands. Hi, I'm Azazel, Angel of Heaven. Finished stalking hell? Vaggie asked with a raised eyebrow. Hi, Miss Azazel. Izuku gave a strained grin. While he could get along well with the angel, and they often compared notes, he found that her being the reason behind the technicality that lead to him being sent to hell disconcerting to say the least. Oh yeah, got all the notes I need. Cenobites were a bit too much to be around, honestly, but I can safely think I should avoid them. Azazel stated as she briefly glanced about at the group before zeroing in on Miss Joke and Aizawa. Would you mind if I take notes? No problemo. Miss Joke grinned widely under her bandana before Aizawa could respond, making the underground hero groan. Thanks. Azazel giggled slightly as her halo wobbled. No lewd thoughts. Charlie admonished the angel. Hell's crowded enough as is. Sorry. Azazel squeaked in embarrassment as her face turned as red as a tomato, which she promptly hid behind her notepad. Why do I have a feeling you lot are going to be a problem? Aizawa sighed in frustration as he rubbed at his eyes. So anyway, why are you all here? Miss Joke asked. Here to enslave humanity. Tempting but too much work. Vaggie waved it off. Got into hell due to a filing error. Izuku shrugged. I just want to be a hero who helps people with a smile like All Might. I believe everybody deserves another chance. Charlie shrugged with a cheerful grin. Inside every demon is a... No, Vagi and Izuku cried in fear as they both put a hand over Charlie's mouth. Having been on the door shift more often than not for the past few weeks, both were well and truly sick of that song, Mad Revelry in the Darkness. Tokoyami stated shortly while Dark Shadow nodded in agreement. Enough, stop pandering to their delusions, Emmy. Aizawa sighed in agitation. You called me Emmy, the heroine squealed in joy. The present teens couldn't help but snigger slightly at this, even Momo. Fascinating. Azazel muttered attentively as she took more notes. Please let it be Tsukachi's shift tonight. Aizawa sighed as the police cars were finally visible from down the street. Aizawa was many things: resourceful, strict, cat fanatic, a fan of juice and sleeping bags, but religious was not one of them. He kept repeating the mantra to himself, but the fact there was literal demons and an angel in the interrogation room at the police station was starting to get to him. Not only was hell a place, it was several dozen separate realms of torment, suffering and punishment amidst realms of chaos and disorder. Apparently the main group he was dealing with was from Pentagram City, roughly 4 hours' flight by wings from the center of all the mess. According to Azazel, the main realms of hell included Necropolis, Tartarus, Pentagram City, Imp City, Argent Dinur, Void, the Labyrinth, Fields of Glass, Inferno, the Underworld, a realm that sounded like someone hawking a loogie at a fast-spinning fan, the Night-O-Sphere, and finally Shul Nagarksert. From those main ones there was hundreds of offshoots each. Heaven, thankfully, but also sadly, didn't need much room and consisted of just 3 realms: Paradise, Nirvana, and Heaven itself. The fact that so few actually got in was a bit disheartening for the hero, especially the part where most religious people didn't get in due to petty squabbling over which book was right. Apparently, there was a short list of a couple hundred each decade or so that got in. He was just happy to know his mother got in, somehow. So, you okay, Shota? Miss Choke asked with a grin, her hand resting on Aizawa's shoulder before he shrugged it away. Aw, come on, she whined playfully. The fact we have honest-to-God demons here is brought to worry about with you being here. Aizawa deadpanned at the green-haired hero. Come on, now you're gonna say you forgot about our date tomorrow at the movies. Miss Joke sulked playfully. We have a date at the movies, Aizawa asked in shock. Great, see you at 7, Miss Joke called as she rushed off. Damn that woman, Aizawa growled in annoyance. Oh man, that sucks. Vagi laughed from the cell across from Aizawa. Charlie got me the same way. Quiet, Aizawa grunted. Just saying, if she is anything like my Charles, she will keep going until you say yes. Vagi sighed. Pretty sure your only other option is to hide under a rock. I have a sleeping bag, Aizawa stated simply. Next. A detective sighed as Izuku was escorted out of the interrogation room and put into the cell next to Vagi with Tokoyami. Charlie and Momo were still being interviewed since Momo was the main one affected and Charlie was the most knowledgeable about Cenobites and hell, although Izuku was a close second. Behind them, nearly groaning under the weight, a cart was wheeled out of the room, covered in sheets of paper. Yeah, keep your pants on. Vagi sighed as she backed away from the door to the cell and held her hands up. Still can't believe we have to interview dead people. I mean, like she was found dead years ago after a drug-odd rape. The cop was cut off by a swift punch to the face from Vagi. Aizawa instantly restrained the demonic girl with his capture staff. Inunka vulva a mentionar iso, Vagi snarled as she struggled against the bindings. Calm down now. Aizawa growled as an officer with a pig head dragged away the unconscious cop. Vaggie, calm down. He didn't mean it, Izuku called to the struggling girl. Truly a sad fate. Tokoyami sighed with a shake of his head. Having never heard how Vaggie had died and ended up in hell, it was a bit of a shock to the bird-headed teen to find out how the broody girl died. Fu tuduis culpa de cerdo, asique, si fu una chica lamada, no tinea opción. Vaggie screamed as tears fell down her face, and like a dam bursting, she fell into sobs. Anyone speak Spanish? Aizawa asked with a sigh as he pinched the bridge of his nose. After nobody spoke up, Aizawa just sighed and dragged the sobbing demon teen into the interrogation room, hoping someone there could speak Spanish. Of all the languages he knew, Japanese, English, Russian, German, and Polish, he never considered Spanish annoyingly enough. How come I'm not in a cell? Azazel asked from her waiting chair against the wall. The police are but corrupted fangs of a wicked beast only biting down that which it fears, Tokoyami stated as he folded his arms. Translation, Azazel asked with a wavering smile. Her notebook clutched nervously in her hands. The pen was confiscated for security reasons. He is saying the police are biased, Izuku stated as he sat down on the simple cot in the cell. Oh, Azazel uttered with a blush. Despite spending as much time as she had skulking about hell, the angel was still for the most part pure, if a bit perverted at times. Apparently she had been banned from Shul Nagarksert after she annoyed too many demons with her questions, which was saying something for the city of forbidden knowledge. Takoyami, your parents will be here to pick you up in half an hour. One of the officers called as they stuck their head out of one of the side offices. Dark forces are cruel and unusual with their punishments. Tokoyami slumped in defeat. Suffocation seems assured. Hug happy parents? Izuku asked with a soft smile. Tokoyami seemed to blush slightly before giving a small, short nod. Before her death my mum was like that too. May she rest on eternally, Tokoyami stated with his head bowed. So, what's her name, your mother I mean? Azazel asked, and she absently tapped at her notebook. Oh, she's in Comidaria, do you know her? Izuku asked hopefully. Azazel only turned pale as a sheet, and let out a strangled yelp before her eyes rolled back, and she passed out cold. Azazel-san, are you okay? Izuku called in worry as he tried in vain to reach through the bars to check on the normally cheerful angel. Great. Got a fainter here, the officer from before called lazily. A few moments later, a tall woman with white hair and a single blank eye sighed as she walked over. She placed her hand over Azazel's head and jerked back as Azazel shot up with a squeal of shock. Marvin, you owe me $10. The officer called as she wandered off the way she came, trying to ignore Izuku's mutterings about her quirk. All it did was give her the ability to wake people up, and gave her only a gray eye that let her see better in the dark. That was it. Gambling is a sin, Azazel stated softly as the officer walked away, snapping Izuku from his mumbling rant. So, why did you freak out about my mum? Izuku asked. No reason, none whatsoever, no, sir. Azazel pelted out in panic as she tucked her legs up to her chin and began to rock slightly on the spot while mumbling, Never anger, green lady, never anger, green lady. Yeah, that's Mum all right. Izuku gave a nervous chuckle as he rubbed the back of his head. His mum was a downright lovely lady and would go above and beyond to make people happy, but Cain forbid you made her mad. He had only seen it twice. The first was when his father tried to abuse him for being quirkless. Officially he left. Unofficially the man got an early trip to hell. The next had been when a man with a potato-like face had tried to demand something from her. He had no clue to the specifics of the conversation, only that the man fled using a purple portal in a hurry, with half the kitchen cutlery being flung after him by the irate mother. All right, this is ridiculous. Momo huffed as she was led to the cell Vaggie had occupied and shut in, a pair of quirk-negating cuffs on her wrists as an officer slid the briefcase containing the lament configuration into the cell with her. I keep telling you to destroy it. It is just a puzzle box. The officer sighed in annoyance, probably having said it a dozen times. There is no way it could have did what you said. In all likelihood, someone with a portal quirk dropped villains on your house, and it was all bad timing. Ignorance is but a fatal folly, Tokoyami stated as he shook his head as the officer walked off, muttering about superstitious children. I'll happily melt it to slag when we get out. Izuku offered Momo. No way can those maniacs be let loose on Earth. Elsewhere, a short, bald-haired boy giggled pervertedly as he dragged yet another body onto the sigil. His parents were the first to go, then Kirishima, and that old man who always stopped him peeping on the girls' locker room. His hair balls, as it turned out, if microwaved would shirk, but rapidly returned to their proper size of 4-inch diameter when wet, so sneaking them into the food of his targets had been easy. As he dropped the final body, the sigil flashed and the lights went out. You are not my Izu-kun. His screams of pain were heard by no one, and the bodies weren't found for another 6 days until the smell leaked out. Yet another elsewhere, a pink-skinned teen shot up in shock from her head, her gold and black eyes quickly adjusting to the dark room. The queen is here. A quick series of thuds filled the air. Mina, go to sleep, it's almost midnight. Sorry, Dad. Of all things, Charlie was expecting Earth to be like a near replica of Hell minus the religious iconography, stone ceiling, and fire, wasn't it? In fact, the streets seemed to be cleaner in Hellicides, the back alleys they would pass on occasion. Momo, being the sole survivor of the Cenobite attack on her family, and the last remaining Yaoyuruzo, was set to inherit her family's business of hero gear and support item manufacturing, so she had talked at the police station with her family lawyer, who would try to sort everything out for her. Tokoyami was being escorted home by his parents, and that left the residents of Hell, a love-obsessed Angel and Momo, to be escorted by Aizawa. It was almost midnight when a bus arrived at the station, being driven by a short old lady who was using stacks of books to reach the pedals. A large syringe-like cane sat to her side. After being piled onto the bus, the old lady took off like a bat from hell for a distant H-shaped building. So, where are we headed? Izuku finally asked while Azazel and Momo were discussing ways to destroy the lament configuration without causing an explosion. Yua Academy, young man, the lady stated simply as they slowed to a stop at some traffic lights. Yua Academy, as in the best hero school in Japan. Izuku cried out excitedly as green flames sparked from his hair. Calm down. Aizawa grunted, partly annoyed that his quirk had no effect on demonic abilities, and thus couldn't shut down Izuku's fire. For all I care, you'll still be out on your ass by the end of the night. Technically it's morning, Charlie asked as she motioned to the digital clock attached to the bus's radio. Indeed, it was showing 12:01 am. Quiet. Aizawa grunted in annoyance, only to wince in pain as the old lady whacked his across the back of his head with a cane. Don't you complain, Mr. Go to bed at the crack of dawn. I've been up since 6 this morning dealing with Mirio and Nejar's antics. How they managed to dislocate both shoulders just by walking is a bloody mystery. The old lady grumbled as they pulled up to the gate to Yua as the main gate slowly opened. Not like you have classes for the rest of the year asides Fridays now anyway. They had zero potential, Aizawa explained bluntly. Wow, and I thought heaven was strict. Azazel muttered softly as she wrote another couple lines of notes. Wonder if my uncle still works there. Vagi muttered. Your uncle? Izuku asked uncertainly. After all, Vagi had stated a few times how her family had treated her. Hisashi is technically a fifth cousin twice removed, but it's easier to call him uncle. Vagi shrugged it off. Momo cast her a sidelong glance from the other rows on the bus before going back to trying to figure out how to destroy the puzzle effectively. Great, more family. Aizawa sighed as he hit his head against the pole in front of his seat. With a lurch, the bus finally continued on its way to the main campus of the school, specifically Gym Gamma, where more staff were waiting, many of whom were looking annoyed at being woken up at the ungodly hour. Everybody off. The elderly woman smiled softly as she pulled the handbrake and opened the door. You too, Aizawa, you're not sleeping on the bus again. Make me. The hero deadpanned. The threat of a raise king quickly got him moving, however. Fine, he huffed. Welcome to Yua Academy. Am I a mouse, a cat, a bear? Nobody knows, but I am Nezu, the principal of Yua. All items of otherworldly nature need to be checked over before you enter, though, just for safety. The small man-bear-mouse-cat thing called in a cheerful tone. You can't seriously believe the demon skit, can you? A block-headed man grunted tiredly. Oh, introductions, Charlie sang happily. Oh great, she's singing again. Izuku sighed. Charlie, please no singing, it's too late. The blonde stopped and pouted before giving a resigned sigh and nodding. Wow, look at that. Vagi smiled. You got her to stop singing before she started, and without kissing her. At that Izuku blushed and his hair burst into flames. It's not like that, he squeaked. Hey, no need for that. Charlie admonished them. I'm Charlie. The other blonde is my girlfriend Vagi. The blushing green-haired kid is Izuku. She is Momo, and that is Azazel. She finished painting to Azazel, who was behind Timecodes and taking notes. The block-headed man jumped in fright, clutching at his chest as his heart skipped a beat. Hi, I'm Azazel. The angel smiled nervously as she got behind her notebook. I am a fan of your architecture. My house in heaven is modeled after it. Can I have an autograph? She asked, holding out the notebook and her pen that Momo made for her before, since she never got back the one that was confiscated. Sure. The hero muttered in cautious confusion as he signed the book. With a squeal of joy, it was snatched back and the angel held it to her chest, while her face turned bright red and her halo wobbled. Off track. Nezu stated simply as he gestured to a table to the side. All non-clothing items there, please. Oh, sure, Izuku stated as he turned out his pockets, putting down his ticket. A few spare coins from hell, a pencil, 2 notebooks, an eraser, a bobblehead of Katie Killjoy that looked like it had been used for fireball practice, and half a stick of gum before putting his suitcase of clothes on it too. Vagi just rolled her eyes and placed her suitcase and spear on the table, ignoring the shocked and horrified look her normally very vocal cousin was giving her. The blonde human was for once in his life speechless. Charlie simply put down her suitcase and tried before Vagi cleared her throat. With a sigh, the princess also put down her phone. Momo cautiously put down the suitcase containing the lament configuration, and using her quirk quickly made a roll of hazard tape and wrapped the box in it. And in there, Nezu asked as he gestured to the now bright yellow case. A gateway to hell that will summon some of the nastiest pieces of work you'll never conceive or believe of being capable. Izuku stated solemnly, we just got out of dealing with them earlier. If it is all right, may I share with someone for the foreseeable future? Momo asked hesitantly. That would depend on whom you are asking about. I cannot allow you to share the room with a teacher after all. Nezu stated seriously. You can think with us," Charlie stated softly as she pulled Izuku and Vagi to her side, making both blush brightly at the close contact and what was being said. "I mean, no offense." Momo trained off, looking uncertain. "Charles, she just had a run-in with border demons. She doesn't need to bunk with the more powerful versions," Vagi stated simply as she slung her arm over her girlfriend's shoulder while Izuku tried to slink off. "Where do you think you're going?" To bed," the green-haired demon asked nervously, his face still beet red. "We don't know which room the three of us are in." Vagi grinned teasingly, making Izuku faint due to a powerful blood nose. "Ee," Midnight squealed in joy. "Kinky demon threesome, can I join?" "No sex with for teachers in the dorms," the old lady snapped as she ditched her cane at Midnight, hitting her in the head before bouncing back to the old lady's waiting hand. Elsewhere, a low groan echoed through a small alleyway between a series of high-rise apartments. A young girl with long hair limped out as they held their abdomen in pain. Blood dripped from her mouth that did not belong to her. "I think the pervert is repeating on me. Irk." A quick hunch behind a pile of trash bags, and the sound of splattering and puking filled the air before she straightened back up, wiping away the blood and bile with the back of her hand. "Why did I go to hell? Surely Father is just testing me. But what I did after to the one who killed me, am I truly a monster? How long was I even gone? Is it even the same night? Why am I so hungry?" she muttered as she staggered along. "Who is Izu-kun?" "Happy Hotel." Alistair was confused as he looked about the empty room with a chair sitting empty in the middle. Where the fuck did that nun I was brainwashing go? The dim buzzing of a light bulb was his only answer. "Fuck, I'm bored again." Thank you all for watching the video, and bye boys.